What's going on, guys? Welcome in to another NASCAR breakdown. We've got 2 races left before the playoffs start. This is probably going to be the craziest of the 2 remaining. This is usually the cutoff race, Josh.
Yeah.
But they've moved it up one this year. Darlington will close out the regular season next week. What are your initial thoughts? Daytona, here we are.
My initial thoughts is it's going to be chaos. I mean, it's obviously, right? I did hear next year they're moving this back to the cutoff race next year. That I did hear. But yeah, this is just for a DFS purposes. This is just going to be who's going to hit heads 10 times in a row. I mean, you got to be lucky. Yeah, we can do the best we can, but I don't know. Last night's race was pretty exciting, even though we lost Austin Hill on the first lap. It still was fun to watch.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the biggest thing, and we've talked about this for years in all of our content for Daytona, Talladega, now Atlanta. It's just place differential. There's not going to be any dominators. It's building lineups around getting the most upside of place differential, and then just hoping and praying at that point. We were talking about a little bit before we started the way to go. You know, if you are a single entry 3 max guy, probably and you want to stay in that way, I would definitely lower my bankroll for this week.
Yep.
If you want to continue with the same bankroll, maybe go to the $1.20 max, go to the $4.20 max, whatever your bankroll provides, to get more teams in there, because that's going to be the name of the game this week, is just having outs when the wrecks do happen. And you know, there's going to be a ton, probably even more so than I don't know if I'd say more so than the spring, but you know, we've got guys that think of now again like an Austin Dillon who is out of the playoffs or and trying to get in, and this is really their only hope, because Darlington's not gonna just throw an out of the blue winner in there, and they could do so this week if they avoid wrecks and time things right at the end of the race.
That's right. And Austin Dillon's won here before. So
yeah, in the cutoff race.
Yeah.
Well, in both races, but
if he does, there's going to be so many people saying NASCAR's rigged, and they let him win.
Oh, that would be pretty funny. But there's a ton of guys like that, and we'll touch on them, you know, when we get there. His teammate, you know, Kyle Busch, who doesn't have the greatest luck, we'll call it here, history, whatever you want to call it.
It's not bad. 12, 7, 19, 10, 6.
Yeah. So the way we're going to do the breakdown here this week is we're going to go by starting position. I think that's what I did for Daytona to start the year. Pricing just doesn't matter. Leaving salary doesn't matter this week. You know, you can build teams leaving loads of salary and could land on the optimal or something this week.
Yep.
That's not going to be an issue. So it's just about, like I said, for me on these races, I've always played multi-entry and just tried to spread out, you know, exposures and not really go over 50 to 60% on any one guy. Even if it is, you know, who's the chalk guy this week starting in the back? Eric Jones. You know, even if it is Eric Jones, because even though he's got good history here, he's been solid on plate tracks. You know, he's not a lock to pay off just because he is starting in the back. It makes him a whole lot better play. Definite a cash lock if you were playing cash games, which might be insane if you're doing so. I say that, but there is a specific strategy you could use for this race in cash. So I mean, maybe we'll touch on that when we get back to the lower starting positions too. But
he's not a lock, but he's basically guaranteed to not have negative points. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah. So this has always been my idea in any plate race. Well, not plate race anymore, I guess, but top 10 starting positions. I don't like to play really anybody here, but Max would be one, and at that point they better be a darn good plate racer. if I'm going to play him. I mean, you've got a few guys up there that are. Of course, McDowell's been solid. He won the 521.
Yeah.
Really has been.
Shelby.
You can see the volatility though. He
Oh
was
yeah.
really good up to 21 when he won, and then he's been not really good since.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Like he's been pressing the issue though. That's why he gets
right,
off track and he knows it's his only chance to make the playoffs and he pushes the issue.
yeah. So I mean, he's got upside to win this race, but what I always say with the pole position here is these guys just don't have, they could start first, finish first, and they're not going to, more than likely, they're not even going to be in the winner,
Yeah.
because they're not just going to go out here and lead half the race or something like that.
No.
They might boost their um, dominator points early on just with the teammates around them, Gilliland here, but I just don't like the idea of playing really any of these guys. Joey's probably the best out of this entire group in plate racing, I would say.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to play him starting third. I mean, it's just I'm
All right.
probably going to be a full fade on the top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Um, on past that, I think you could mix in a Chase. I mean, Byron won here in the
Yeah.
spring, but he also won here in 20, but hasn't been. I
Different
don't
car.
think of him as a great super speedway racer for whatever reason.
See, I always think he's decently average. I mean,
Yeah,
he's far from great. He's no Dale Earnhardt, but I mean, he's, in my opinion, I think plate racing is his best style of racing, in my opinion.
yeah,
But still, I like I said last week, there's just certain guys that I tend to not overlook, but tend to not really gravitate towards week in, week out, and Byron just happens to be one of those guys. So
yeah. I mean, over the last this year and last year, he definitely has improved
yeah,
his plate racing. I mean, six top tens in the last 9.
yeah, two.
Um, in super speedways, and 2 wins. So I think you could keep him in the pool, and Chase. I think you could keep him in the pool. Other than that, I think I'm going to stay away from the rest of the top 10. You got anybody in here you're going to keep in the pool?
No, probably Byron and Elliott if I even get there, because I'm one of the guys that does single entries. And we were just talking before we came on. I do like it, this style. I actually probably need to switch over to the $1.20. That way I can have a broader thing. But since I started playing NASCAR, I've always just been a single entry guy. Like, just make a one line up and let it ride. And so I probably will not get there. The only reason I went Austin Hill last night is because in the Xfinity series, he is by far, I mean, leaps and bounds the best plate racer in that series. And he was starting in the front row. So I assumed he was going to lead the entire first stage. And then when I got out of the shower and heard he went to the back or whatever, and at the green flag or something, I don't even know what happened, but because I missed all of it. And
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him do that before for
yeah,
sure. So I get that.
that was my fault, people, and it won't happen again.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and move on into we'll just
Yeah.
do the 11 to 20 range next. Starts with Kyle Busch, and goes all the way down to Harrison Burton. You've got a few guys in here that are going to be both popular and really good plays, I think. Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, are both very solid, starting in the high teens. Austin Dillon, he's got, like we said, he has won here a couple times. So he's not been good recently at Daytona, but starting 16th is okay. Even in Brad and Busher, I think are solid options. Something I always have done at Daytona and Talladega is do a little bit of team stacking, like maybe
Oh,
run and mini, not like the full on
yeah,
Hendrick stack or something, but like a Busher, Keselowski, and hope that they're the two that pair up, because you see it all the time. You see teammates work together, and if the two teammates work together and they're the ones up front at the end, then there you go.
yeah,
Because they are going to work together if they're there. So I think
exactly.
there's upside there. Same thing with Bubba and Hamlin. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that plays into driver owner and
Yeah.
there. So
Oh wow.
you've also got Blaney, who's been solid at super speedways.
Yeah.
Gregson. There's a lot in this range. I'll say in one lineup, you're probably not playing more than a couple of these in this range still, because you want to somewhat backload your lineup. So again, I could see maybe starting it out with one of these 2-man teammate stacks, but after that, I don't think you're going to play three. You're not going to play 3 or 4 of these guys here in this range.
No, I agree. And the one thing that makes me a little nervous about the teens and playing races like this is for example, last night. What happened last night? Anywhere from like 10th to 25th makes me so nervous at the start of these races because anything happens. Somebody could get loose and they just got in their car. And yeah, they've done this for years, but I mean, these cars are different than the ones a few years ago. They get loose and they were saying in Michigan, when they get loose, they snap quick. You know what I mean? You get a little bump. The teens always makes me nervous, in races like this at the start, always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Moving on down, you've got Bowman, who's
He's out to me big time.
Yeah, he's been really good here,
Mm-hmm.
specifically, and starts 21st. Now you start getting into the range that you want to get exposure to. You talked about Austin Hill in the Xfinity Series. He's here in an RCR car. I think that's equipment really doesn't even matter in this race because of the draft and some things. It's not like the faster car is always just going to drive straight to the front. Or you don't have to worry about getting lapped, things like that, unless there's a wreck, and then at that point you're done anyway. But there's a lot of guys in this range that I think are in play. You've got Hill, Bowman, Reddick's okay, Bell,
Yep.
Hemrick is a guy that I've always played
Yep.
at plate races. And I
Thanks.
would rather him be starting farther back, but he just seems to have a knack of being around at the end. He doesn't push things and try to lead laps. He just tries to be around at the end. So that's the kind of thing you like at a race like this.
Exactly. Yep.
Whereas you might think of like a Chastain as a guy who's going to push it and not be there at the end, but he's
Yep.
been okay. What do you think in this range? You got anybody that really sticks out to you? Bale has been 2 top 3s in the last 3 here at
Yeah.
Daytona.
I'll say this. I have been overlooking Reddick the past 6 weeks. He has not finished worse than 6th the past 6 or 7 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And they have been all kinds of different tracks, but they have not been plate races yet. Well, whatever this package is now, it's still plate races to me. But anyway,
yeah.
And yes, he has finished. Where's he at here? He's finished second here in 2022 at the fall race, summer race, whatever you want to call it. I mean, Reddick is on fire right now. You always say ride the hot hand in baseball and other sports. You know what I mean? Reddick, to me, I mean, he's the driver that's on fire right now. I mean, he's going nuts. And then Zane Smith, I did not expect to see 2 13th places out of Zane Smith there. That stands out to me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said, Hemrick, Bell, Ty Gibbs. I almost called his first win last week. He was in third. He finished third. Almost called it. Ty Gibbs stands out to me here. I mean, his very first plate race in Cup Series, he finished 13th, then 25th, and I think he crashed last fall and finished 17th at the 500 this year. I mean, I don't know where he started, but if he's starting in the 20s or 30s, that's not bad,
Yeah. Yeah. Lot like you said, a lot of good guys here in this range. This is where you're going to start wanting to load up, your lineup. You're probably going to honestly have, in single entry, I'll probably have 4 guys 20 and back for sure, and probably 2 or 3 30 and back who we can get into now.
Yeah, maybe even 5 20 and
yeah,
back.
I mean that was the thing I was talking about for cash. If you were, I talked about how crazy it would be to play cash, but there's pretty much a clear build. You just stack the back end of this field and you take the best floors and hope that's enough to get you across the midline in cash games. And you're not ever going to have a big negative in that case.
Yeah,
So something like that, as we get into this 30 to 40 range, you're going to start with a LaJoy who's great on super speedways. Jones, you're going to lock him in for a cash game.
absolutely.
You're probably playing, as crazy as this sounds, you're probably playing Ricky Stenhouse starting this far back.
Oh,
Just again because of the floor,
or the,
somewhat floor. We'll call
yeah,
it.
he is checkers or records at this track. He is.
And Haley would be the other guy. So that would kind of be the 4-man starting point for me in like if you were playing cash games.
To me, you got to have Corey LaJoy in there. To me,
yeah, he was the first guy.
I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Shifting back to what we play pretty much every week is, of course, GPPs, tournaments. As you get into this 30 and back range, ownership's going to go up. And that's something I think I've always struggled with on plate races is the ownership. These guys are definitely the best plays, like a Corey LaJoy. Probably the best play without looking at anything else, ownership or anything like that. He's probably the best play on the slate. Him and Eric Jones, just because of their starting position and the upside they've got if they finish top 15, top 10, something like that. Stay out of wrecks. But, those are the type of guys that usually I'll jam in there 50, 60% in a 20 max, and they can still wreck. I sometimes seem to forget that they still wreck just like the other guys, even though they are starting back here and they have a solid floor, big upside, more upside than anybody else in this race. They still wreck, and when they wreck, it takes out a big percentage of the field because they are the higher owned. So that's something I've always struggled with. It seems like I can never get on the right side in these races when I multi-entry. If I go 50-60%, they wreck, and if I go underweight, they finish second and kill everything. So maybe you again, this is just like a pick a stance probably, but maybe you do stay in the 40 to 60% range and just ride it out and hope that if they do wreck, your other portion of your lineups have somebody that didn't. Because if you fade one of these guys in multi-entry, it's just hard to come back from, even when they finish top 20.
Yeah.
And again, they're just the best plays on the slate. So that would be the way that I would rank them overall without, looking at ownership. I would say LaJoy, Jones, Stenhouse, Haley. I mean, Stenhouse, you mentioned checkers or wreckers. I mean, that's traditionally in tournaments, if you're multi-entering, that's definitely what you want.
Yeah.
You want a guy starting in the back who has big upside. He's not afraid to push it into the top 5, top 10 at the end of this race. But Ricky also has a knack for not being at the end of the race. Or if he is at the end of the race, that's when it gets him. But I think there's a lot of upside there.
Yeah. So one person stands out to me that you haven't mentioned yet. And the reason why is because that exact reason. I think his ownership is going to be low. Carson Hocevar. He's running extremely well this year for his car, especially.
Yeah, he's not really been like he was in the other series with
and
wildness, I guess.
He doesn't have the best race finishes in the Xfinity Series at these tracks, but he's done well enough where he's starting that if he has that average finish in the Cup side, he's going to pay off.
Yeah, he'll definitely be one of the lower owned guys back here.
I mean, so that's what I like to do down here. I like to pick 4 or 5, and I pick one that I think or that I know is going to be low owned, and he might be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, this is a race that just because, like I said earlier, the equipment doesn't even matter. So if you going right below him, McLeod and Joey Gase, it's like I would never even consider them any other race of the year outside of super speedways, and I think you can play them here. I mean, look at BJ McLeod's history at Daytona. 2 top 10s in the last 5 appearances here, and you don't even need a top 10 out of him.
No, that would be. I mean, he those 2 years he was 100% in the nuts.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with Gase. I mean, he hasn't had the pop finishes that McLeod has, but again, it's just kind of luck when you get back here.
Yeah.
Cody Ware's been really good. He starts 33rd. I mean,
He has
3
been.
straight top 17s for
Yeah.
him, which dates back to goes back 22 to 23. John Hunter's been surprisingly good here.
Big
He
gap.
was in a different car, of course, in 20 when he ran full time, but even this year he was 7th in the 500. So
yeah,
a lot of guys you can mix in. I think the guy that I would probably like the least out of this entire range is SVG. I don't think he's really acclimated to this type of racing yet.
I think the reason why he's running is because they want him to be better next year. Isn't he in the track house car next year?
I think is it still it's part time still, I think, but
okay, all right.
But I mean, it's more than it has been this year. I think for sure.
Because they said it last night during the race. He is still learning this type of racing. He does not know this type of racing at all. I would not touch him today. I mean, that's just me.
No. Yeah. I think that's definitely the way to go with that. So that's really all I've got. It's just about the lineup construction. I think that's the main thing this week. Don't worry about having people that lead laps. Don't worry when your guys purposefully fall to the back at the start of the race. We've seen that. I don't think we will see that this year or tonight. They've not really been doing that with this car, but in the old car, Hamlin was one of the guys that would do it. He would just drop to the back. They would match up with teammates and ride around for 100 laps.
just make sure you don't do anything stupid where you lose a draft and get lap. That's all. But honestly, what I like to do with these, set my lineup as soon as the race starts. I don't even if I'm looking at DK and other sports, I turn NASCAR off. I don't even look at it because there's no. You know what I mean? Because
I'm not gonna know. Especially if you have one lineup, but even if you have 20, your exposures, and you're gonna know watching the race. Did I just lose half my lineups? You're always watching the wreck to see which ones come twirling out of there.
Please, none of my guys. Please, none of my guys. That's what the wreck. I'm going. Come on, baby. None of them.
Yep. Anything else for you?
No, I mean, that's it. Good luck, everybody. We all know it's a crapshoot. Like I said last night, just good luck and pick the best you can. I mean, that's pretty much all you can do.
Yeah, we'll be back next week for Darlington. That'll be, much more the traditional race where there is some more strategy in picking actual drivers instead of just picking starting positions.
Tires fade there. That race is exciting to me. I was talking to my brother about it yesterday. I'm excited that they put that one as a cutoff race this year because it doesn't just take the driver and the spotter. It takes the entire team. You know what I mean? So, but I do understand why they want Daytona to cut off again next year because it even makes it that much more exciting. So I understand. But
this, like I said earlier, this might as well be a cutoff race for most of these guys anyway.
You're right.
So it'll be just as wild, I would assume. But yeah, I mean, something different. We'll see. Next week, I think. Hopefully, I hope we have somebody who's out of the playoffs that has a really good car that can challenge next week.
I hope so too, but I'm going to call it right now. I think somebody who's out of the playoffs wins tonight.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not thinking be Austin. Good, I'm having a brain fart. Austin Dillon, but there's a pretty good chance it could be him, Eric Jones. I mean, there's a good chance it could be someone like that who has won here before and knows how to get it done. That's out of the playoffs. Hell, it could be Kyle Busch. I mean, technically, he's up right now, I think, by points, right?
I mean, think of what that would do to to next week in the cutoff if something like that happened. If because right now you've got the top 16 is Chastain is in by a point over Bubba.
Okay.
And then ahead of them is Buescher by 16 points.
Yeah.
So if you take one of those spots away and you move Buescher down, well, then you got Bubba and Chastain 15, 16 points out as of now. But, I mean, obviously they can get stage points this week. And I think, maybe that's another thing with those guys that, yeah, they want to get a win, but they also want to finish this race.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
All three of those. I mean, and even Ty Gibbs to some extent, because he's plus 39. If he doesn't, if he crashes out early in this race, he's right on the cut line going into next week. Whereas he could, a good finish this week would pretty much clinch him in to the playoffs. So
yeah, pretty
I
much.
think you could see that, but you're going to see all the guys below just push crazy at the end of this. You've got Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, Todd Gilliland, who is a good racer at these type of tracks with McDowell, Hocevar, who you mentioned, Barry, Gregson, Stenhouse, Priest, Jones, Haley, Dillon. I mean, all those guys are, if they're up front at the end,
look out.
There's going to be a mess.
Yep. Yep. This thing's going to go overtime.
Yeah.
Because there's guys in the top 5 that are out of the playoffs and we're into overtime. There's 100% guarantee going to be another wreck. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hop on out of here. We've got a very busy day. We've got EPL, which actually kicks off in 25 minutes. I got to get over there and update that lineup for the first early showdown. And then the main slate for that starts at 10 o'clock. We've got college football starts back at noon. All the content is up for that except for my tournament core, the cash game core, and rankings, highlights, all that is up. So we got that back today. We've got, of course, the Cup race tonight, UFC tonight. Got just a ton going on. So check us out. This link is in the description. $15 for one sport per month, $25 for all sports. I don't think you can beat that in the industry for the amount of stuff that we're doing over here. So good luck to everybody, and we'll see you next week for Darlington.
Sounds good. See y'all later. Good luck.